always the way you should start something. Fuck it, let's go. Why not? So, welcome to the podcast this week. This is Living La Vita Loca. I am Fazz.
And I'm, I don't know, in a rich gravy. Actually, hang on. Full-bodied ale carrying rich rewards.
Oh, nice.
That's from the label.
I'd like you to
Thanks,
be.
label.
You're my rich reward.
Rich, dark, sweet, and malty. That's the one.
I don't want to be. I don't want to think about you in a gravy. Particularly. No. So we want to start the pod this week by apologising for last week's sound levels. I think looking at the listenership levels, we hear you loud and clearly, which is ironic.
You just can't hear us.
Because, it wasn't great. So we apologise. Hopefully they'll be better this week. So we've been testing it a little bit before the pod. But thanks very much for bearing with us. So we have a couple of fun bits this week on the pod. We are going to jump straight into our reviews, which we're looking at Tekken. We're looking at Tekken Dark Resurrection on the PSP. I'll say that again. Resurrection. That one. Resurrection. Anyway,
one of them.
Stay away from that one. Yeah, one of the Tekkens. And Rich, what are you looking at?
Street Fighter X Tekken.
Which I'm I'm excited about that as a concept.
So was I once.
Oh no! Okay, and so there are going to be some Swift reviews, and we have a guest this week, which is always fun to have on the pod. Would you like to introduce yourself, mystery guest who got revealed on Instagram the other day?
Hi, I'm Nathan, John from the Mind.
Here he is.
That's my introduction.
Wonderful. So Nath, I've known Nath for about 30 years now, and we look like it.
It feels like 30 years.
It definitely does.
In a good way, or is that a loaded question?
Genuinely expected that to be like a nice awkward silence where we go, jovially, but actually,
no.
Has it been a good way? I don't know. We'll find out in the
Ups
next
and
hour.
downs.
Yeah, we'll find out in the next hour, I think, won't we, Nate?
Yeah, it depends if we argue or not.
Yeah, no, we will. So we are getting together today to talk about, am I a good gamer? Or are we good gamers? Are we gamer or are we dancer? That's the question we are asking ourselves today, and now I can see that Nate's like, I'm getting off this pod straight away.
I'm out.
Like,
what have I done?
I don't want any of this.
I'm too busy playing Tekken.
There you go, that's the spirit.
Tekken Liberties.
Oh,
Way.
that stings.
Okay.
Right.
Alright. So, but it's a real pleasure to have you, Nath. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thank you.
So,
no worries.
Nath is the person who designed our logo and also our theme song. And he's also done a rock version, which I...
Has he?
Yeah, he has.
Oh, that's exciting.
I've said that a lot. Fazz has just been listening to himself.
It is
I
good.
was going to say, keeping this to yourself, Fazz. What's this?
It sounds like something that I say this respectfully, like in a good way. It sounds like something created on Music 2000.
Oh yeah, sign me up.
That's what I was going for.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a style. It's a style.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember playing Music 2000 round at your house, Nath, one time on, I think it must have been the PlayStation 1, I guess.
Yeah, I think it will have been. But I had that and I had Beat Mania, and they were all like similar sort of like music games, and they didn't know what they were really because everything to do with that was PC based. So the console ones, it was just like it was weird, but I enjoyed it. And
now look, now you're designing theme songs for hit podcasts
with dozens of listeners.
dozen
with dozen of listeners.
Dozen of listeners. But yeah, we do really appreciate your support, and we've obviously said that before on the pod the last few episodes, so thanks, dude.
Should we give Nath an awkward round of applause?
We should, yeah. Break the mic.
The worst bit is that we don't rehearse the timings, and yet every time.
Nailed it, probably.
No.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, we've been friends for a long time. Me, you, and your twin brother Baird as well, and some other friends that we've spoke about on the pod. And I'd say that between you and your brother, you're the most experienced gamers that I know. And I was saying before the pod to Rich that I'd say you're on a level with Rich in terms of your gaming knowledge. So looking forward to having you talk about what makes a good gamer.
Well, this is what I have to talk every night to myself in the mirror after we play Warzone.
Yeah,
This is all I talk about.
Be better, be better, be better.
Self-analysis.
It's like a really, I was going to say grungy Taxi Driver. Now, Taxi Driver is quite grungy in itself, but I imagine, it's even grungy in your case. Like you've looked like Travis Bickle in the past on certain occasions.
Well, I'm obviously now going to draw Robert De Niro as a goth from Taxi Driver.
But it's got to have a gaming device in his hand, whatever controller you want to have.
Well, yeah, it'll be pointing his PSP at the mirror.
Nice, yeah. And also, I want to mention at this point, then, obviously now you brought it up, that you've recently picked up a PSP, haven't you? From our friend Stu, who is at the aforementioned Stu, who is not at all incriminated by the conversation. Exactly, yeah, no. He's just a guy. It's an alias. Right. Stuart James Hogg is an alias.
I've been advised by my lawyers not to speak about it on podcast, so
That's fine. This isn't getting put anywhere important. So before we crack on, speak to Nathan. Nathan's going to chip in on the conversation a little bit as well. We want to talk about our Tekken. I was going to say, are they masterpieces or are they just pieces?
Tekken Odyssey.
Yeah,
they're fine. Mine was fine.
Yeah, so you start because you're into your fighting games, combat games more. And Nath, chip in at any point if you want to say anything about those kind of games, or if you, I know you've played Tekken before. There's a cat down.
That sound was the cat falling off the windowsill.
Keep it in. Keep it in.
She's
Don't have it.
fine.
the problem is that as soon as you start talking about Tekken, the cats come out in defense of King. All the cats, all Phoenix will fuck you up.
Yeah, that's basically what was about to happen.
That's pretty much the storyline, really.
Yeah.
That's probably a fair assumption of all Tekken storylines. So
so Street Fighter X Tekken is a bit of a weird one, where obviously they had to come up with a way to smash these universes together, and they basically go with a meteorite with a weird box in it. So in terms of story, it's not exactly one for the ages, but when was the last time you played a fighting game for the story? Actual combat-wise, it feels very much like Street Fighter rather than Tekken, which, considering half of the cast is Tekken, it felt weirdly disappointing. Like with Tekken, you get into those like 10-hit combos, and you're mashing the face buttons to put these big strings together.
You do.
And occasionally,
I get into less combos. Like I'm talking like fish and chips and gravy is a combo down the shop. Like, that's as far as my combo goes.
Still valid.
It's a good combo.
It is a good combo. Whereas with this, as it's like a kind of tag fighter rather than one-on-one purely, you've got a lot of mechanics geared around switching fighters mid-combo, keeping things going that way and all that. So, like, mechanically, there's depth there. It's got this gem system, which before the game first came out had a lot of people, like, not up in arms, but wary about, like, oh, well, if you suddenly put in this mechanic that means that I can automatically block everything, surely that's going to really break the game. And it kind of feels more like it's there as an assist for new players. The game's kind of got a control scheme as well that you can switch to, or maybe even a couple of them, where you can simplify the inputs. So it feels like they really worked hard to like make it accessible. But at the same time, I think the whole thing just fell flat for me because of the Vita itself. And like, I like using D-pads if I'm going to need to use them. In an ideal world, I like arcade sticks and like the big chunky buttons and the stick and all that because I'm a child. But if I'm using a D-pad or an analog stick, I would always go for a D-pad. The Vita's D-pad is actually quite nice for doing like Street Fighter sort of motions, like you quarter circles and you sort of Z for the Dragon Punch and all that kind of stuff. But it's so close to the edge of the thing, and I'm playing on the slim one as well, so I ended up like basically with my thumb like pushing down on the bottom bit of my finger, and like it was all all a bit crampy and stuff like that.
It's like it's there, but they don't want you to use it.
Yeah, and there is some real estate on the touch screen for, you know, pre-programming some like macros and stuff like that. So you can basically insert combos to just be on a sort of a touch of a certain bit of the screen, but you have to pay for that as DLC, which is kind of weird. But then on the PS3 and the Xbox 360 version of the game, you had to pay for characters that were already on the disc as DLC.
Okay.
Whereas they're included here.
All right.
So it feels like a kind of weird. It's not quite like the Ultimate Edition type thing, but it's at the same time still falling foul of some weird microtransactions, and you can like pay for gems and pay for like costumes and stuff like that. So it all kind of hangs together a bit weird, which is kind of how I come down on the whole thing in general. Like it feels too much like Street Fighter to really be satisfying as a Street Fighter Tekken crossover. If you're playing a sort of Street Fighter crossover game, the Street Fighter or the Capcom and the SNK ones back in the day, as far as I'm concerned, are still up there. Capcom and Marvel are good as well. But
you like playing them, don't you, Nath? Capcom, Marvel, I think. Is that the ones that you kind of dabble in?
I think with fighting games, it's all about the characters for me, like, and like how many moves they have, and like what they do, and how flashy they look, and like trying to get the other person into a position where you can like link up as many as possible, so you can feel like you're good at the game. And I think the Marvel versus Capcom ones and stuff like that, and I think it's Blaze Blue and stuff like that. It just really focuses on stuff like that and big combos, which is what I like.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I'm glad you mentioned that, because like again with Tekken, like you can string these things together, you can bounce people off floors and walls and all that kind of stuff, and it just kind of keeps going and going. Certainly Blaze Blue, like you can string those combos till the cows come home. On this,
I'm nodding, smiling,
nodding sagely, like yes, of course. And I mean, my execution on this game in particular was woeful, to be honest with you. Like it was really, really bad. But I don't get the sense that the combos would be nearly as meaty as something like a full fat Tekken. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. Like I know it sounds like I'm really, really coming down on it. Like it's not a bad game. It's just it's not the Street Fighter I would recommend playing on a Vita. It's nowhere near even the same ballpark as being a Tekken that I would recommend on Vita, because it's 2D. It's there's no movement in and out of the screen or anything like that. There's none of the big long move lists like Nath was just saying. Like the move list compared to a classical Tekken move list feels small for the Tekken characters. Like it just feels like it could have done more to make the Tekken characters feel distinct rather than feel like
with the crossover.
Yeah.
Do they do many like this character versus this character like a big thing? So you have to work up to that fight to have that, or does it just feel like they've just chucked them all in there and you can do whatever you want with them?
It's kind of weirdly in a middle ground. Like they gently steer you towards preset teams without forcing you to use preset teams. So like say
like Nottingham Forest.
Wrexham.
Yeah.
Well, no, we are being steered towards Wrexham. Everybody is being steered towards Wrexham.
The black hole that is Wrexham. So take Ryu and Ken, right? Like they are, you go through, you're mashing X to get into a game. You're probably going to end up with them as a team. So because they are, as far as the game is concerned, a quote-unquote official team, they'll have their own intros and the kind of back and forth between the arcade mode matches. If you chose, say, Ryu and literally anybody else from the sort of 50-odd characters, and there are some good ones in there, by the way, like box art Mega Man from the NES days, or like cool. Pac-Man and stuff like that. There's some
brilliant.
There's awesome. Some unusual ones, but they all feel the frigging same. You won't get any of or as much of the kind of dedicated interactions between the two of them. It'll be a lot more generic. So it does kind of feel like, you've got to play the game on the game's terms, which, is fine, but it doesn't quite rank itself among the greats as far as I'm concerned. Not least the fact that it does that cardinal fucking sin again of the Vita of like, yeah, we've got some interesting ideas for the touchscreen. You know, you can press this bit in the corner to get all 3 kicks at the same time to save you getting claw finger trying to like wrap yourself around the Vita. But at the same time, we're going to arbitrarily say that these menus you can navigate with buttons, but these you have to navigate with touch controls, and it's just stupid. Like, it just crowbarred in for like no reason at a couple of points. Anyway, I came in with a vague idea of a score, and I thought I would treat it like you'd treat Rock Band and talk myself into a number. I'm giving it a 7. It feels like a 7 to me. Like, it is a fun game. I enjoyed my time with it, but I'm not going to go tearing back to it when I can play one of the old PSP Street Fighters on my Vita.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's fine. Yeah, I think that's probably sounds like where you... I mean, I'm going to say what you said to me about Rock Band. It's sounding a bit sexy. In so much that I know it's a good game, but it's not giving you what you want.
I think part of the main reason I'm not giving it 6 is that... Hang on, let me start that again.
It's better than Rock Band Unplugged.
Well, I think basically, if I gave it 6, I know that I wouldn't be treating it kind of even vaguely objectively, and I know I'm barely treating it objectively, but like 6 feels very much like I'm comparing it against other things I've played, and all that kind of stuff. You know, potentially quite recently, he says, having played Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max before you came round this evening.
I need the good stuff. Fuck the shit stuff.
But that's it. And
Do you not feel like the other games were so good that it brings it up to a 7 from a 6?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good way of putting it, because it's like, if I said it's...
There's no average Street Fighter, is there? There's no 5 out of 10. As long as it's got the fundamentals in there, it's probably a 6 anyways.
Yes, that's much better put than I could have done it, yeah. Because, like...
Get Nath on the pod.
Yeah, absolutely, because he's right. He's absolutely right. Because, like, you know, the cliched way of putting it would be like, it's just bad for a Street Fighter game. That implies it's bad somehow. It's not.
No.
And, yeah, Nate's absolutely right. Like, just by dint of being a good Street Fighter game... Not great, and they've got a lot of great games. So yeah, 7. I think, yeah, I feel good with 7.
As a wise hobbit once said, all right, keep your secrets, and you're 7 out of 10. So...
Which hobbit?
I don't know, Geoff.
Geoff the Hobbit.
Geoff. It was absolutely shit-faced in the Prancing Pony or whatever it was called. Is it the Prancing Pony or Prancing Horse?
Something like that.
I don't know. He was down Bree doing crack, and then he started... That'd be amazing, like a 4-4 break where like Geoff is just in the corner of the horse pub and playing like Pac-Man Arcade.
Yeah,
just... Championship Edition. I'd love that. So my Tekken, I always call it my Tekken, like because it's my Tekken. Like, so I guess I want to preface this, caveat it with. So Richard's just spoken about how his game with L.L.V.L, and he knows what's going on in fighting games. He's been brought up with Street Fighters and he's been brought up with Tekkens. I think the last time I played a like combat game, like, by myself, not round at a friend's house.
I was going to say, it was around mine, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wait, I honestly can't remember what that was either. But
Tekken 3.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fine. Which is a great game. It was. I mean, and Smash Brothers doesn't count. Was probably Dead or Alive 4. I think was possibly the last time I played a fighting game by myself. It was like playing the story mode and things. So I am not an expert at fighting games. So this is going to go well.
Does anyone play Dead or Alive for the mechanics?
Yeah. Oh my days! Like, I think Dead or Alive 2 was when we were about 13, maybe, Nathan. I remember going around to Brian's house and he had it.
Yeah, we were really bang on into that, but I'm sure we're not playing the volleyball versions.
Yeah. No. But I think I genuinely, what was the I was going to say girl, but that's not okay. The combatant that had short blue hair. I can't remember which one she is, but mild. Pardon? They them. Yeah. I cannot remember, but I definitely had an A4 poster from a magazine of her on my wall, and I was like, "This is wrong," but I don't care. Like, I just don't care. But I certainly haven't got a poster of anybody from Tekken on my wall. So, which is, they need to step up their game, clearly. So Tekken Dark Resurrection is a kind of a remix of Tekken 5. And it's funny because PSP games seem to take a PS2 game and make it a bit of an Ultimate Edition and add the word remix or add a different word. So, like Tony Hawk is Tony Hawk Underground Remix. And it's just, so they add a little bit more to it from what the original version was. I didn't play Tekken 5, so I don't know what that was. But I certainly, when I've read around it, there's been things added into the main game compared to what there was. And it was almost like a Tekken 5.5.
Okay.
It was really, really well reviewed at the time, which is interesting because I thought it was, just like you, a very good game, but very nondescript from any other fighting game that I've experienced previous to it, really. Certainly, like I said, but again, I'm not an expert because I've not played for a long time, probably like 15 years or something. And I just found it very samey, depending on, it didn't matter. It was like, oh, there's like 6 different modes, and it's like, oh, time attack, or go through these dojos, or do the story mode. I played story mode as Paul Phoenix, as previously referenced by Nath. I find his story in that game hilarious and wonderful. Like, he is a see you next Tuesday with cherries on top. Oh my days, what a guy Paul Phoenix is. He reminds me of, and again, Nath, you watch, like, I guess, UFC and things, but I don't really watch it, I just kind of like observe it through our friendship group from home, but he reminds me of what I would imagine a UFC fighter would be today in real life, Paul Phoenix.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I see that.
That's what I feel like he would be like.
He's kind of like a UFC fighter from the 90s. I would say, like the original.
The originals.
With the hair up and the bravado of it.
It is, so yeah. And I remember, like, I played it this week. I remember. So the story mode had, I think it was 9 levels to it. I guess 9 fights, sorry. And for the first 5 fights, I passed them pretty easy. I got to the 6th fight, and I had to use my first continue. I then did fight 7 and 8, absolutely fine, no more continues. The 9th fight against the boss of Paul Phoenix's story was like a flaming sort of devil guy. I don't know who he's called, Yoshimidu maybe. And
Yoshimitsu.
Thank you very much.
I was going to let that hang.
No,
I was enjoying the kind of the old man retelling of the Tekken stories.
I love being mollycoddled by you two right now. I'm telling this story like it is, but like really, I just want you guys to correct me and go, "Oh, it's okay, fans, don't worry."
We still love you. It's fine.
So, but it was like a fire version of him, and it took me 12 goes, 12 continues to beat him, and I was like, that's such a jump up in difficulty in a game. It's ridiculous. It's like jumping from playing Mario Kart to Dark Souls. I mean, but in terms of like how
do I steer?
Yeah, do you know what that isn't? Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you've got to like know the rev exactly on Mario Kart, like to get the next gear up. It was like it just jumped up far too quickly at that time, where you felt like you should have built up a little bit more during the last few levels.
Have you considered the fact that you didn't learn anything in the fights?
Yeah, that would be. I mean, obviously I've considered that. It's the game's fault, not mine. But so yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you, Nate. Because I am definitely a button basher. I try to learn moves. I took the whole tutorial in from the game, but all that showed me was it's such a basic tutorial. It was double tap forward to move forward quickly, double tap backwards to move backwards quickly, hold backwards to block, hold forward to do this. 2 things. The complete opposite from Rich. The D-pad on the PSP is so difficult to use for a Tekken game because it's all about direction, about how you do your moves. And all I was doing was basic punches and kicks, like low or high. Trying to actually get the combos or do the moves to the combos or do the grabs and flips. It was really hard with the D-pad.
Can you sidestep on it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. But even that's like a double step down, double press down, double press up, which.
I remember that being a really big thing, like just to be able to get out of certain moves, you could literally just sidestep them.
Or you could just take them to the face. Which is what I tried to do probably the first 10 times against Yoshimitsu, Bad Man, Devil. But his moves took like 3/4 of your life, and I'm like, that's not fair. Like, that's a lot of me trying to dodge that. It's like ridiculous. Like, to only have two goes at it. And I remember doing it when Rowan, my little boy, was having a nap, and I'm downstairs in the kitchen, like thinking this is like the 1 hour I've got to myself all week, and I'm here, and I'm like, I'm wasting my fucking time. Like, let me beat you so I can understand what Paul Phoenix wants to do, which is take over the universe as the best battler ever. And I want to know about that. I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to have to fight you too many times to make that happen. But I know that is the core concept of the game as well. So
it's like Dark Souls and stuff like that, where you, except for like in games like that, you can go straight back to that boss, play it again, learn the you learn the moves quicker, you learn like what you can and can't do with it. Whereas in a fighting game, usually it's like, well, you're gonna have to do those 10 fights again to get to the boss, and by that time you might not have remembered that the boss has a big willy that comes out of his ass when he does this certain moves, and you can't avoid it, and you forget because you.
That sounds like a Zelda boss.
Up to that boss.
Yeah.
So it doesn't give you the time that small amount of time to be like, all right, I'm jumping straight back in to learn the moves.
Yeah, and that's it. It's like, and you just, and it'll say to you, continue, and you've got like 9 seconds, even though it's like each second seems to last 3 minutes. That is to decide whether or not you're going back in. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to keep on going back in because I need to beat you now. Like, I've invested too much time at this point to do it. So I haven't really got a gripe per se with the idea that the last fight is the hardest one. It just didn't feel like it built up to it as well as it could have done. And I didn't feel like I had much of a challenge before then to make me think I need to learn more moves or I need to learn how to use the D-pad quicker. At this point, I need to point out that I have started to get cramp playing the PSP when I'm having to use the D-pad. And that's a problem for me. Like, to the point where I'm like, you could not use the analog stick. You didn't have the choice. And that I think that there's an analog stick there. I can see it. I can see it below my left thumb. It's there. It's usable. It's a whether.
Can we call it an analog stick? Like, is it?
Well, yeah, it's a nubbin. There's a nubbin, isn't it? There was a nubbin. There's a weird thing there that moves around that looks a bit like an analog stick, but it would do the same thing a DualShock would do, surely. For fuck's sake, let me use it. Oh no, you can't use it.
It's got a weird mechanism in it that's different to actual analog, which it's like got more of a spring back to it than the actual controllers.
All right, Tekken developer over here. Oh well, it's got this, it's got that. Oh, you fucking hell! Like, you're gonna help me out here.
When you play fighting games, and especially Street Fighter, or Mortal Kombat, for example, and you used to sort of roll in from like left to right to get like a certain move, or you need to roll it back and then roll it forward, and you stuck to a D-pad, you get used to the way it feels, and then when it jumped up to analog, it was just so loose, and then going back to a PSP and using the nubbin, it's like somewhere in between, but still not as responsive for stuff like that.
Yeah, it doesn't. You're right. Like, is it? Oh, it's like Nintendo Shop, and you've got parental controls on there, and you have to select your pin number using the analog stick on the Switch, and it's like, oh, if you want to put, I don't know, your number is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's like you have to put your directional pad with the analog stick into 1, 2, 3, 4. It's really difficult to get that right, and it's like, why are you not working? Like, let me just type the fucking numbers. So I take your point that actually having those sticks on handhelds maybe aren't as useful as maybe using a D-pad. So again, thank you very much for pointing out my foibles and not the console or the games.
Well, it's about it's not the tool, is it? It's the person who's using it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is all that happens is that
just for reference, I wasn't calling you a tool there, but it was obvious.
But yeah, if it's not already obvious, then that's fair. This is all that happens whenever me and you play games, is that I'll complain and you'll just tell me why the game's right and I'm wrong.
Well, that's what happened when we were playing golf the other night as well.
yeah, but to be fair though, like, that was me just being shit. The game was janky. That was retro gaming, by the way, Rich. It was a 5-year-old game, that's retro gaming if I've ever heard it, a 5-year-old golf game. But yeah, we enjoyed it, Golf Club 2019, and we'll probably go back to it and play it this week at some point when I need to chill out and, get told by Nath that my Argentinian golfer is shit and I'm shit.
But wait, there was a little moment there that I failed to pick you up on. When I I said, "Oh, are you Argentinian?" And you said, someone said that it did look Argentinian. Was it Sally that said it was Argentinian?
I guess that Sally said it looked a lot like me, and I at that point had about 2.5 pints of Old Rosie cider, and I did mishear you, and I'd forgotten that I had an Argentinian nationality.
Well, yeah,
golfer.
No, I thought you totally went over it, and I thought you just meant that you thought it looked Argentinian. And I was like, well, no, there's an Argentinian flag there. You picked that. You chose Argentinian.
And you're right. I don't know what an Argentinian person looks like. Like, I've got to be honest. I probably need to go and research that before I come back to you about that offline, not on the podcast.
Research it now.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. Where was I? So, the Tekken game that I played was fun, but felt, like I said, in every mode, just felt very similar. I enjoyed myself. I felt like you can play it on the bus or whatever. That's one thing about this, is that I feel like I could take my PSP out in public and not be embarrassed about having an old console. Go and sit on a public transport and play that 15-20 minutes and be really fulfilled and be like, yeah, actually, I've really enjoyed that, and I don't need to think about or where my save point is or how long I've got left, etc. Like, that's what it's really good for, and I guess that's what fighting games are good for generally. Yeah. But being out and about with it being a handheld, and it looks great. It looks really good again for the era, and even now, like, there was nothing where there was any frame rate rip or anything at all. Like, I was, again, as I was last week with Total Wipeout, Wipeout to... Wait, what was mine again? Anyway, won the Wipeout.
Wipeout
Pure, thank you very much. God, it's been a long week. And, yeah, again, it would just look really good. It was better... The graphics are better than I remember them being, and I have more appreciation for them now than I did previous. Which is saying something, really, because usually when you go back to old retro game consoles, you go, oh... God, this looks stupid, this is awful, I can't see what's going on. On the PSP with the last two games, the fighting game and the racing game of, I guess, almost release dates, 2005, 2006, have been very good.
So, arbitrary score out of 10 brewing?
I'm going to go 7.
Yeah.
And again, I understand my own shortfalls, and also the fact that I'm not necessarily a fighting game gamer. But when I was playing it, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge of the last level, but I just felt like I should have been built up into it more. Like, it's to go from 15 minutes earlier in game time from the tutorial of press left to move left, press right to move right, to you are going to get you're
going to get thumped in the face now,
burnt off within seconds. And you know, and then there's a bear coming at you called Kuma. Is it Kuma?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kuma. Hey, nailed it, Kuma. But you've got a backstory of Kuma from the previous Tekken. That was great. Paul Phoenix. It was like a thing. I really loved that. That was great. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's a solid 7. I enjoyed the game. I would play it again, but I'll play it again on the bus for 15 minutes when I use a bus, which is never. So yeah, but I did enjoy it in bits and bats. Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess 2 questions off the back of your getting thumped repeatedly by Yoshimitsu. Did you ever, A, consider blocking? And B...
No.
And B, did you ever consider putting the difficulty down and running it through a couple of times like that and then gradually building it up?
You can't get down from easy. No. It was... I was on... So there's 5 difficulty levels. I was on the second one, so it wasn't as if I was on normal. It wasn't as if that, and I am a 35-year-old man. I refuse to move down from normal, which is definitely the easiest level. Easy is for people that shouldn't be playing the game in the first place, really.
Ooh, controversial. Okay, well, I'll save that for the discussion about whether or not you're a good gamer.
Well, I think
because that feels like we're kind of there now.
Yeah, I feel
right. You're wrong, Fazz.
What do you mean?
Fuck right off. Like,
no.
Easy mode is absolutely acceptable.
That is,
right?
no, it is. Okay.
For shit like this, where you're learning it, like Nath was saying, there's no easy way of just, like, shy of using save states and emulation and stuff like that. No easy way of jumping to that boss, right? So run it through. You can go knock off those early fights, nice and easy, get a bit of a sense of what's going on. Run it through a couple of times, get a couple more moves under your belt, get more of a sense of what the boss is going to do. Kind of like Dark Souls, you start to learn the
You're
moves.
cheating.
It's not cheating.
You're cheating.
It's not cheating. Then you build it up.
That's the way it's meant to be played.
See?
No.
There you go.
The first mode, easy mode.
It's
on a
learning.
Right,
It's fucking learning.
What character did you fight before the boss?
Oh, a nondescript man.
Right, so here's the thing. So before the boss,
And he got fucked
when
up.
they made the game, before they made the game, they will have all those characters are there so that you learn something up until the boss, so that you're good enough to kill the boss.
Yeah.
So did you not fight Yoshimitsu in the normal form before that?
No, I didn't actually. There you go. End of that. I didn't have anything else to say on that.
Didn't learn a thing.
I remember not seeing him. That's all I've got for you. Sorry.
Well, hang on. It doesn't need to be the exact character though, because obviously there's different types of characters. So that maybe there's a speed type character, another one that has a similar moveset that you probably fought on the way up to that.
This makes me feel like this conversation is going to go one way, where I learn I'm not a good gamer. Where I'm like, what are you talking about? They're all different people. One had a mustache, one had short hair, and was female. Like they're completely different. What are you talking about?
All right, cards on the table. So the reason I'm prodding at this particular wound, which by the sounds of it is particularly fresh,
It's
still.
gaping.
Yeah, just the gaping.
I'm getting blood all over my arm, and it's because I think, like, as soon as you mentioned that we were going to chat about this, like, I thought, oh well, am I a good gamer? And I came to the conclusion that no, I'm not. But I always want to go in and learn something. Like, if I've taken something from what I've been doing and I've progressed somehow, that works for me. And like, I used to be really, really bad at like Call of Duty and Battlefield and stuff like that. But like, I would always enjoy trying to outsmart someone, right? So if someone kept picking me off from somewhere, I would zero in on them like nobody's business, and like suddenly the entire game would be about me trying to take them down, right? And that's learning something. That's trying to unpick this kind of problem.
You just described Grand Theft Auto Online.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. That's exactly the same approach. But then this is how come I think.
Little kids in a tank that's just again and again just destroying you.
Died
Yeah.
37 times.
Exactly, and suddenly the whole game becomes like, how do I take this one fucker down, right? Or at least ruin his day somehow. That's not
gaming. That's just revenge.
Oh
just
yeah, all right,
revenge.
it's vindictive. Yeah, sure, but ultimately, I think that kind of like through thread is what took me to like shmups and fighting games and stuff like that, and I guess to go back to Dark Souls has that kind of streak as well, where it's like it's there to teach you something. All of these kind of trials and tribulations, as long as you take something away from them, and that is job well done. And it's not necessarily about beating it, it's about learning something and then being able to employ that somehow. So like playing through, say, Tekken or Street Fighter a couple of times on arcade mode on easy, sure, like it might feel like a bit of a hollow victory when you win, but if that equips me with something else, like another tool that I can take to a fight against a real person on the game, not that I'm about to go into the street and just suddenly punch a stranger.
Oh, I got so excited.
I've just heard that sentence
so excited
out loud.
It's like, a real person.
Just controller down, brass knuckles up.
Just there in the street going, right, if I press up and right now,
I'm a real Street Fighter!
I'm going to wreck a guy.
But point is, like, if I've learned something from it and I've got something that I can use, that's job well done. And so I think in that respect, I'd like to think that I am a good gamer, despite being shit at it, if that makes sense.
Okay, so let's just open this back up, I guess, at the start of the conversation after I've just been assassinated by you two. And let's come back to fighting games soon. Let's come back to those soon. Nath, generally, right, A, what makes a good general gamer to you in your head? And B, are you a good general gamer on a large amount of games that you play, do you feel?
So, I had a think about this because I've had two views and it's changed recently, just from being able to play online games and see my stats and see what I'm like compared to other people. that's changed my view. So originally I was like, oh, I'm probably below average. I see all these people playing on YouTube and smashing through games, and there's people that go through every Dark Souls one after the other without getting hit, and I'm like, oh my god, like there's no way I'm anywhere near that. I must be below average, surely. But then when we've played Call of Duty so much, we've started looking at our stats and caring how we spend our time and be like,
no, we don't care. Do we care? I mean, I do care.
Absolutely.
I care deeply.
Yeah, it's all about the stats.
It's intrinsic with the catharsis that you get from games. So you care about it because you want to get to that point where you're like, I'm relieved, I've done something that I possibly couldn't do before. And so when I started looking at the stats and stuff, and I realised that we were getting like very high in the top like percentages of people that have won the game and stuff like that, and I was like, but I don't feel like we're that good. But then when you actually think about how many people game nowadays, we are above average as gamers just in general. So I've changed my mind, and now I think that I'm an above average gamer, but that's only because there's so many average and below average gamers playing. It's a game of numbers.
That makes sense. So I mean, like what?
But I feel like I'm good at every game that I play. I can get through it. There's no games that I ever give up on. So I would say that I'm good at games.
Okay. I mean, obviously you were saying there about how we are above average on a certain game from what you've seen stat-wise. But when we seem to come up against sort of multiplayer leveling, for example, so say you were going to enter a championship of Call of Duty Warzone, where out of 100 people, where do you think that we would come as a team? And I'm talking about like the people we regularly play with, and me and you, for example.
Because we can't decide who's in that tournament. We can't distribute the player base fairly, and I don't know what the way that they would work it out on said game, and I don't know the way it works out on COD when we play it now. I don't know if we're going up against the top end or the bottom end or the middle, or like, so really it's never fair. Mm-hmm. All I can go off is where are we percentage wise. So if we were to have a tournament, if it was fair and there was the same amount percentage wise of average and below average gamers in that tournament, I think that we would come in the top 10 every time. Easily.
Well, I mean, we do tend to finish second a lot, which is really
consistently
fucking no, it's annoying. That's what it is every time. Just haven't got the stones to finish it off, basically.
I was going to say, so then what in your eyes would make you first? What do you have to bring to the party to win?
Well, I always think that it's playing that game all the time. Like, I mean, and me and Nath talked about this, quite at length previously, where it's like you have to be playing it like nearly almost 24/7 to be that good. But then I don't see, once you get to a certain plateau of how good you are at a game, and we're talking about a specific type of game here, and I'll change tack soon in terms of different types of game again, but this specific type of game where you say a battle royale, for example, or you're going up against on multiplayer maps, I feel like you get to a point where you kind of plateau and you at a certain level. I don't see any more growth in myself when I'm playing those games right now. Nath, you've always been a bit more positive about that and said there's different ways of growing.
Yeah, I was just about to apologise to you because I was going to smash your opinion.
Yeah, but I thought that might be the case. I mean, that's, you don't have to apologise about doing that. You can smash whatever you want of mine.
Well, it's skill versus talent. It depends on if you're good at games because you're talented at games, or if games are considered just a skill that you can learn and keep going. I think that it's more, and I think the evidence out there suggests it's more of a skill than a talent. You can be talented at certain things that help you become good at the game, but if you've got, say, time and you know what to practice for that game, anyone can be in that top 10 area. You've just got to apply yourself and have the capacity to do it, I guess.
Okay, that's an interesting thought.
If you had every day, you'd be in that top 10 all the time. You'd be in the top 5 all the time. like when people say, "Oh, but I'll never get good as this streamer," it's like, yeah, but those streamers are in the 0.001%. So yeah, and you're also never going to be a Premier League footballer. It doesn't really make. It's not a good parallel.
I think I'm not good to speak to you about this. Maybe you are, Rich, but I mean, I'm too much of a humble horse of handheld hero. I do beat myself up a little bit about things.
You do, yeah. I'm not really sure what I'm meant to be saying about this.
Josh Yomitsu beats me up. That's what happens.
No, I think it's a really interesting.
Well, fire, which is even more impressive.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting thought about skill versus talent, because I'd not really come at it that way before. Because, well, I think you're right for one thing, because if you've got the time to dedicate to it, it's the same as learning a guitar or something like that. You know, like you say, especially with fighting games, you know, you gravitate towards a character and then you start to practice the inputs, and then it becomes a mechanical skill. And then, like Nath was saying, you know, if you've got the talent for being able to say read what an opponent might do or anticipate that, and you apply that as an extra level over it, you can see how all of those things come together. But I think part of this whole discussion for me that is worth digging into is that, like, everybody's going to have a different definition of what good constitutes. And, you know, is it necessarily winning, or is it, you know, having fun, or is it just, you know, I don't know, something else completely. And I think, like, there's a lot to be said for being able to apply yourself across a bunch of different genres and types of game as well, like, adequately, rather than necessarily winning everything all the time. And I mean, without wishing to bore everybody too much, when I was at uni and, like, studying film and TV and stuff like that, we did a fair bit on, like, the language of cinema. He says, doing big air quotes again, and like how, you know, audiences back when would see, like, there was this old, I assume it's true, story of a film footage of a train coming towards the camera, and audiences ducking down because they didn't necessarily appreciate that it was going to cut away, or how nowadays the length of time between cuts is that much shorter than it ever used to be, because audiences now are that much more versed in the language of cinema and can watch a piece of footage and pass what's going on, even though, you know, it's all over the place and all this kind of stuff. And I think people have to, like, appreciate the language of video games, and, like you were saying about analog sticks versus D-pads and stuff like that, and, like, knowing, well, if I pick up this controller, this is roughly what is expected of me now, rather than just being completely adrift. And that is like a kind of, that is something that's attainable to most people, I think. But it's still, to put it the way that Nate put it, it's still a skill.
Yeah.
You know?
I could listen to you two all day. I'm having a great time. Like, I really am. Like, as in, you both put it so eloquently, and I'm just like, no, just get fucked up, mate. Like,
all right. So to put it another way, then, if you're going to boost my ego like this, and to go back to fighting games, Justin Wong, you know, famous fighting game player, reckoned that he could jump between games because he had good fundamentals, and I think that thought can apply across genres as well. If you go in and you've got good fundamentals, you can go in and you can have fun and you can appreciate a game on the game's terms, in the way the game is meant to be played on some level. Like, sure, like you had with Tekken, you might not be able to win at it consistently, but you still gave it 7 out of 10. You can still appreciate what it's trying to do. Yeah. And I think that's because you have a good fundamental knowledge of the language of games.
Would you like me to give you a little parallel, a weird metaphor type hypothetical thing?
Absolutely.
So it's essentially like...
How weird?
Oh, this is going to be weird. It'll get weirder as it... Like, it's not weird in my head now, but as it's coming out of my mouth, it will change.
Because you've said... I'd say out of all the people I know in my life, you've said the weirdest things to me.
Okay.
Ever.
We'll test that. So it's like having a hamster in a hamster ball, and he keeps running up the hamster ball, and it's stuck in place. And eventually he'll get to the point of the hamster ball where he'll come back around on himself, and he'll realise, oh, hang on, I ran all the way around that hamster ball. That's what gaming is. You go around that hamster ball and you're getting good at something, and then you get to the top, and then you realise, oh, I can come back around, and then you're better the next time, and you keep going, and then eventually you beat syndrome that you have as a hamster?
This feels like the time where you made that Pokemon card of me and I was wearing makeup. That's what that feels like right now. I feel like I'm in that world where I don't know what's happening. Maybe I'm that hamster in the ball.
The momentum that the hamster has to get by running up each time, that's like you playing the game and you just keep getting, but you feel like it's a plateau, like they're going to get up to a certain level and they're just going to stay at that. But I feel like you go right round again, and the next time you go around it's easier because you've done it before.
Okay.
It's just it's going to take you longer. The more you do it, it's going to take you longer to get to the next level of it. So it might feel like a plateau to you, but it isn't. It just means that you're not putting enough time into it, and that might mean that you don't have enough time to do it.
Yeah, and that probably is the case.
It's about retaining the information faster and better each time. It's all hand-eye coordination video games. So even if you're talented at like with car games, just judging like corners and stuff like that, you're just innately good at doing that. If your fingers don't do the right things, then you're not going to be able to capitalize on that. So you have to practice doing it.
Yeah, you need the execution.
That's interesting that you say that, because I'm not trying to beat myself up and be like, oh, I'm not a very good gamer, because I know I can do things, but I've definitely said things previous on the pod. For example, I'm probably just not very good at fighting games, where Blue used to just hand my ass to me on Fight Night round 2 constantly. I think
everyone got beaten by it.
Yeah, probably that's true. But at the same time, it's like it probably is my own. It's my own fault in a way that I'm such a stubborn person and a stubborn gamer. Because then I'm just going back to the same well to think, well, no, I should be able to do it this way because that's the mechanic of the game that I know and I'm quite good at doing. But it's still not good enough. So I need to be probably more open-minded, and I'm hearing you both saying, well, you'll learn in different ways, or try and take the time to learn a game, and you'll probably become better at it. And whereas I guess I'm on the mindset of, I'm either good at a game or I'm not good at a game, which is very, oh God, this is horrible. I hate that I'm that kind of person, but I'm not like that with everything in life, but for some reason with video games, I've certainly got that mindset where I'm like, well, you pick it up and you do it, don't you?
You need to run up that hamster ball a bit more, you little hairy mull.
Oh man, I mean, that might get cut. Anyway, are you allowed to say that about hamsters? It's probably okay to say about hamsters.
Well, that's what I thought. I thought that's okay because it's a hamster.
I'll leave Rich to do the editing of this podcast. Time it. What time is it? Right, okay. But, so, I guess let's take a little break and just talk about the beer that we're drinking. I don't know, did you pick up a beer at all, Nath, for the podcast?
No, I'm drinking water.
Excellent. Right, okay, you're going to tell me about that water.
It's oakwood sauce. It's stored in a cool, dry, clean place away from light, strong odours or chemicals, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
The bottle's 100% recyclable. And there was 750 millilitres of it before it went inside me.
How many millilitres are left now?
Oh, it's fully gone.
Remember? Well, oh wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean that's if you had, I swear I learned like what I'm gonna air quote fact in PE lessons one time that I'm sure if you drank like 30 pints of water you would get drunk but you'd die before you did it. I don't know if that's true or medically possible.
I have questions about that.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's one question. Is that true?
That's definitely true. Yeah, someone did it in a cinema in the early 1900s when a train was coming up.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And then proceeded to piss themselves like
to death.
Yeah. To death, yeah. Well, we'll talk about our beers as well then. So our watery beers. So you referenced that the offset would be probably the better way of putting it. The start. Thank you. This is why I'm a bad gamer, because I can't press start. So Wall Top Marmalade is one of the beers that mine's gone, the first one.
Oh yeah.
That's Wall Top. They're from York. They're really good. So that's a porter. So that's bitter, orange and chocolate and coffee, which I got a lot of hints of. That isn't, I'm going to say that really, hints of blah blah. But it did taste pretty good.
A few of my favourite things in that.
Nice.
That was quaffable.
And then we've moved on to a Timothy Taylor landlord, but it's a dark landlord, and I absolutely, I would go to bed with a dark beer any day of the week. What would you normally have? I love it. So I tried to throw it over to Rich there, and Rich just went. Just made a supping noise.
My problem is that because I managed to turn the label from the other one into such a joke at the start, I'm going to stop doing that joke because it's ridiculous. But I instantly zeroed in on Rich Yet Light, which is another one that I should have thought of. What were you asking?
Great.
What do I think? It's nice. It's good. I think because I've only just had, first mouthful of that. I think I prefer the Wild Top.
Oh, that's going to work out badly for you because whenever I drink, I have to drink towards my drink of preference. That is, you can't end on a shit drink.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
If someone said to me, "You're going to go do an Otley run and you're going to have 20 pints," and then at the end, someone's going to give you a shot of tequila, I would say night ruined.
Yeah,
right?
No, you've got to build up to your flaming Yoshimitsu before you. Yeah.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
Nath, what's your favourite type of beer?
I'd be supping that tequila like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah. You just go out you just go out to the pub and end up having like a pint of tequila, don't you?
So actually, you've made me go and grab a beer. So
we made you do that.
Yeah. So it's your fault. It's 5.3%. It's a winter warmer ale from the Sainsbury's Christmas box that I got. It tastes the difference.
You really didn't have anything.
It's fruity and malty. It says. I'm about to take my first sip.
Okay, go for it.
You will get the first.
Rich, fruity, and malty. That's another one I should have had.
Rich, fruity, and malty is the name of your band that you formed after hearing Hanson.
I'm Rich. This is fruity and malty.
Fruity and malty balls. After hearing the album South Park Chef Aid, that's what you named your testicles.
Yep. Yep. All true.
Back to the gaming. So, I wanted to ask at this point then, because we've had quite a robust conversation about how you see yourself as being good in, and mostly games rated against other people or in games where you build up in things. So, you talked about your Dark Souls and things. How about in, I guess, light-hearted, fun games where I don't necessarily see skill necessarily being something that is important. So, an example, Pokemon. Are you a good gamer at a general Pokemon game? What is there a possibility that you can have a ranking of being a good gamer or not a good gamer in that? I mean, I know you could probably, build up your Pokedex, or you could have certain levels of Pokemon that, more complete of a game, but can you be good at a game within itself, or is it just everyone's the same level?
So, personally, whenever I've played a Pokemon, it's, the collecting and battling and yay, single player, I have become the very best there ever was and all that kind of stuff. The main reason you can see this caveat coming from space is because my wife Fiona has been playing them for quite a while, and through the course of her adventuring, she's found out that the competitive scene for Pokemon is vicious.
Right. Okay.
People really get into it, and the minutiae of the moves that Pokemon have, certain stats that they'll have in the background, like personality types, people selectively breeding Pokemon for specific purposes and battling and all that kind of stuff. People are really hardcore with Pokemon battling. So I think that speaks to what we was kind of touched on earlier about the reason you're playing a game and what you're getting out of it. Because that is the beauty of the medium. Because you could take the same Pokemon game and I will be playing it in a completely different way to someone who's really into the battling, but hopefully we'll both get, a roughly similar level of enjoyment out of it.
I think now that you've said that, I'm sure I saw a 13-year-old won a Pokemon Championship gaming recently, And I was like, wow, that must really piss off all the 38-year-olds out there. So like, she doesn't even know the generations. Like you know, but
you weren't there.
Yeah, apparently she owned it, so that's pretty impressive. Have you got an opinion on that, Nath, or you just took it into that winter warmer?
Well, yeah, I'm getting slowly a little bit, you know.
It's cold. It's cold out there.
It's so. I think because I'm just full disclosure. I work in a game shop.
Whoa.
So because I now work there. Before working there, I've only worked there about 9 weeks now. But before working there, I thought that everyone. Naively, I thought everyone took on games the same. So like. You'd go into it and you would feel maybe not exactly the same, but similar things with each game, and then you'd see that reflected in certain reviews and stuff. But then now that I'm working at a game shop and all the different customers that come in, like you were saying before about different people really being competitive on Pokemon, it's the same with every game. There's just they're just different types of people. They'll come in and they'll be like, oh, have you got this version of this game? And I won't even know what the game is. And I'll go, I haven't got a clue. And then they'll stand for an hour and tell you about all the different things. And if with Pokemon specifically, you've got those main games that are on like the Nintendo, but it's bled into mobile gaming. So you've got the Pokemon Go players that they probably won't even touch Red, Yellow, Silver, Gold, any of those, but they'll go and stand on a street corner at 3 a.m. to beat a gym that's at the local spa or church or something.
Sorry, they
beat the cold with 4 phones.
They're beating Jim, just like Rich. Rich is planning on beating Jim later in the street after his
if you don't play
training.
Pokemon Go, you don't know what I've just said. So there's so many specific things. I think there's a card version where when you buy the cards in real life, they go onto the app. So then you use your team of cards on the app to fight people.
Yeah, there is.
On your mobile.
Because I find it really hard
I don't know what it's called.
Because what I kind of want for Oscar for at the moment, like my 5-year-old, is to be able to maybe have a few Pokemon cards. And I remember actually when we came to visit you in Newcastle on the way back down from our holiday the other year, and we'd just been to McDonald's and they'd just done the 25-year anniversary of Pokemon and released some cards, and that was Oscar's first Pokemon cards, and he had a Poplip, I think it's called.
That was said with conviction.
Poplip. I am a person who is I've just tracked Ash Ketchum like winning the championship and been like constantly WhatsApping it out to everybody with excitement. So I'm a Pokemon fan. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not great with the Pokemon that you use. You know, they're just arbitrary units.
They're a tool to be used for violence.
Yeah. They just get thrown out there in the midst of the battle and get fucked up.
We hear the word meta a lot when we play cards on like what's the meta guns or I've now from working in a game shop I've heard it in about every game. So someone was talking about that Pokemon game going, well I've got the meta deck, and I was like, oh, what does that mean? Like what, just the best deck? And they were like, no, not really, it's the way you play the deck. So you need this Raichu and this other I think it was a Lugia, and you need these two in unison, and if you get to play the Lugia first, then you're always going to win unless you're playing someone who's got the same deck as you, and then you have to do that. And he got into it, and he was just sitting there playing this game at work, just playing it for hours, sitting in the game shop, just sitting there playing for hours, and he kept turning to me, even when I was like serving customers, he was going, oh, come and have a look at this, I'm just about to do this, and I was totally out, I did not know what was going on whatsoever, and I did feign interest, but it just showed me that you could get so into every game.
Yeah.
Any game, so I don't think there is any fluffy games. I'm fully expecting a 50-year-old man to come in and say, I've been playing Kirby for years, and I'm the best Kirby player, and guess what, this is the way you do the levels, and I'm just like, no wonder you're wearing the leather jacket like Morpheus. You were so knowledgeable, Mr. Kirby.
Mr. Kirby. I've got a point that I feel like, everyone says, "Oh, I've got the meta," or "This is the meta." Do you think someone just got misheard and they were saying better? I've got the better deck, or I've got the better gun, and someone,
I got jaded on the whole idea of metas when I was dabbling with playing Overwatch, and like how so much of the team compositions and stuff like that. If you weren't playing the meta, you were losing. And it was that sort of like, well, sure. I guess.
I want to play the healer.
Exactly. I kind of want to do it my way though, a little bit. And it is an interesting thought. And I think Nate's completely right. I think it's like any game you mention, like someone is going to be getting something from it. I mean, to go back to the line "fucking king,"
God,
like the number of times like that game. I know it doesn't sound like it ever, but it does hold a very special place in my heart.
Arbitrary number out of 10.
Oh fuck it. But like back in the day, I never played past like level 2, maybe once or twice. Maybe I got past it.
I'd say everybody that listens to this podcast, and also hopefully is on this podcast, knows and find like the first 2 like levels of Lion King, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we get what you mean."
I'll give it a score right now. It's Hakuna Matata 2 out of 10.
Well taken.
Yeah. But I'm sorry. It was Jim. It was for me. It wasn't Lion King. It was Earthworm Jim.
Fair.
Yeah.
But I mean, like with Lion King, like I'm only going to it as a convenient example for a game that I was legitimately and demonstrably crap at, and still am, and yet I enjoyed those 2 levels. I really did, and they are etched in my memory from the number of times I played them through and things like that. So I'd like to think that being a good gamer is not necessarily always getting to the end and always rolling credits, but just like being able to take something from the time you've spent with it on, our dwindling time on this planet Earth that we have.
No, did you write those on like some cue cards, like Love Actually, outside a window?
No, I'm gonna stick it in like a curly font over a picture of a mountain.
He's reading my gravestone.
Live, laugh, love, game.
Play the Lion King.
So I want to ask you guys this question. It's quite a difficult one to answer for me, so I want to see if it's easy for you guys. Is there a type of game that you consider yourself to be very good at, and is there a type that you are worse at, or are you just like an all-round general? I can turn my hand to anything and enjoy myself. You guys play a lot more games than me, and have played a lot more different type of games than me. I know certainly you've both reviewed and said things to me, or play this or play that, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I will, and I never do. So thanks for wasting your time. But have a little chew on that and think about, is there something that you think, like you said, it's not about necessarily that, oh, I'm really, really the best that I know out of my peer group, for example, but you just know that you're going to go on it and you're going to have a great time and you're going to be able to access a lot of the game or something like that, maybe.
I have spent a lot of time with shmups recently, and so like I would definitely to go back to what Nath was saying earlier about like YouTubers and like speedrunners and all this, like I'm nowhere near a lot of the players that put gameplay up, but I'm good enough at them to enjoy them and like get to grips with the mechanics and get something out of them. Same with fighting games. The ones that I'm like, I definitely consider myself a generalist though. Like I can pick up most things, but I'll tell you the ones that I'm genuinely awful at, right? I can count on one hand the number of games on Madden I've ever won. Which, considering I used to play like this non-contact American football, like is embarrassing, right?
And Madden is the epitome.
Of non-contact American football. It was a good few years before I scored a touchdown. Like I managed to win a game by just getting a couple of field goals, and like and we're talking like I won maybe like 4 points to 2 kind of thing.
You sound like the Rams from this season.
I tell you what, my defence was top notch, right? Like I could do D.
We just kick field goals.
Can't attack. I've not been able to, like, on any Madden you put in front of me, doesn't matter what era, and I've tried like Mega Drive, I've tried PS4, I've tried basically everything in between. I'm awful on offense.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm not great here, and I used to be better. And we will do some Madden coming up on our PSPs, PS Vitas, etc. I've picked up a Madden and NFL Street, and
nice.
I've had a little dabble on both of them. But in fact, just before Nath jumps in, I had a little bit of a sob story on Madden, the newest Madden, the other day. I was playing, so I went on it, and you can tell it was like the very first thing because it comes up in an exhibition where it's a Super Bowl and it was Chiefs versus Eagles, and I was winning by 10 points with 2 minutes to go. I fumbled on my own 10-yard line to hand the Eagles a touchdown. They then scored the 2-point conversion, so it became a 2-point lead. I then took a safety in my own end zone.
Oh dear.
to become a draw, and then they scored a field goal. Within 2 minutes of game time, I went from a 10-point lead to losing, and I find new Maddens extremely frustrating. So I can feel what you're saying.
For what it's worth, considering the last Super Bowl and the fact that we've got a Chiefs fan talking to an Eagles fan, I really enjoyed that story. Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay. But you've got to have something, haven't you? I saw an Eagles fan in work the other day, and I just said I'm really sorry.
Through things out.
So Nath, you've had time to mull it over. What you're thinking in terms of what you think, types of games and stuff.
Okay, well, quickly, I don't think that's your fault with the Madden thing, because I think they've upped the AI where it's like more reactionary. So it's to make it more nail biting or whatever, but actually it's just more frustrating because you don't know whether the computer is working against you or if it's just set level and you can always beat that level.
You've made me feel better.
I've always felt like that with the Madden games, where I don't know what the difficulty really is, like what it's set at, and then it's the same with when we were playing golf the other night, and we'd have a horrendous hole that'd be like +8, and we would be like, how? Like we're just doing the same things that we did on the other holes, but it just seems like that hole was really unlucky or whatever. Or the wind was set to howl, but you don't know whether it's the game working against you or whether you're just being crappy. So I wouldn't blame yourself too much about that. And then with games that I think that I'm good at and stuff, I don't think I'm particularly good at any game specifically. I think I can generally just get on every game and be okay with it if I'm into it. That's my main thing. There's so many games on Game Pass that I'll download, play for a bit, and then just delete because I'm just like, I'm just not into it.
I'm glad you came to this point because I wanted to talk to you about Game Pass because I've kind of championed it a little bit recently on the pod, and I know a lot of people sort of say it's really good value for money. And you're the person that I know the most who talks to me about different games on there. And again, I do apologise that you'll tell me about a really good game, and I genuinely do value your reviews of those, but I still probably don't get to them, and that might just be a time thing, or it might just be that doesn't necessarily sound like something I'm into. But it's surely...
I download every single one that comes up. It's almost like it became an obsession to me, where I will download every single one that comes just to try it to sort of go, Game Pass was worth it.
That's what I wanted to get to. It almost sounds like a bit of a playground, certainly for you and Baird, your brother. That is in you both get through a lot of games and get to a lot of games, and I'm always like, does that make you a good gamer, that you ingest a lot of games?
He does it for a different reason. No, he'll play games on easy just to fully complete them and to feel like, I've completed that, I've got the achievements, I've got this. I think he's got the most gamer score out of all of us on the Xbox.
Oh yeah, but vastly, yeah. And then I think you after that, and then as in the people that we play with, which few and far between now, but certainly my gamer score is about a tenth of what your guys is.
What is your gamer score?
I don't.
Go on, slap it on the table.
My gamer score, right? Okay.
Slap it on the table.
Well, I mean, this might wreck the pod because I'm going to have to like tap on my phone on the WhatsApp call to you. But that's, I mean, can you bring yours up, mate?
I'll find out what your gamer score is. Just hang on 2 seconds.
Oh, good. I mean, I've just brought up what 3 words, so we can find out where I am. That might be important. I mean, I won't tell you what they are because, maybe I will, and people can find us in 3 days' time. I don't know.
Well, it's alright for you, but it's my house, so...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about that.
The only reason I ask is because I know plenty of people that would put a lot of stock in
really?
the gamer score number.
Really?
Or like the number the number of trophies you've got and like platinums and stuff like that. Like it is what is used by some people as a yardstick for how good you are.
So I'm hoping that your brother is listening then, because I would be interested to hear what he would think about it, because I feel like Baird might be one of those people that is the case with. I don't know.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let me guess first, because I have no idea.
Let me find someone let me find his, and then we can go off that as like a benchmark of that's someone who plays on their Xbox all the time. So his is 176,870.
Wow.
I mean, okay, so I was going to guess around 10,000, so that feels like about right then. So 10,500.
Yours is 12,890.
Yeah, that's a thing. There's a number there that
That is an arbitrary number on how good you are at games.
That is insane. Not
even 10% of what he's got.
That's wild, isn't it?
I mean, for what it's worth, like, because I've still got my 360 knocking around, and I'm pretty sure last I checked, my gamer score was somewhere between like 40 and 45,000.
What? Wow. I mean, that is, to be fair, I didn't have.
I'm on 70, so I'm not even half of what he's got.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, no, but that's still like it's monstrous, isn't it? Those numbers compared to what I have.
The amount of games I've played, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I play games maybe till like halfway, maybe 3/4 of the way through most games, just to have played them. But I'm not playing them to complete them. I'm playing them to experience the game and see if I'm good at it. So I normally play on normal or hard.
Yeah.
Whereas my brother, he'll go on whatever the easiest is, play through the whole game, then go on to making it difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So go for the experience then. So that's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like one of those things where you just think, as a gamer, for me, I'm not bothered about those kind of things. I'm not bothered about scores or anything. I'm more bothered about, like how I feel afterwards.
Yeah, having fun.
Is it about having fun?
or
is
quote
it
unquote fun?
Vindication that was a valuable use of my time
And money.
Money. Yeah, that's a really good point as well. Yeah, and funnily enough, I don't like paying just straight up money for a game anymore. Like something with a Game Pass, for example, and stuff like. So at the moment, Nintendo have got a sale on Mario games now. Again, air quotes sale. So Mario Odyssey is sat there, £33. I really want to buy it, but I'm £33 for a game that everybody says is absolutely banging. I'm still teetering on whether I'm going to part with that much money. Like, and it's not even that much.
We don't even have it in. I have customers every day coming asking for it, and we don't have
It's
it in.
Nintendo.
It went out the door that fast.
It's in the store. They should just go to the Nintendo store now. Why would they not? They should just pay attention.
Well,
that feels like they're not actual gamers.
It's mostly parents. Trying to get it for the kids, and they don't really know.
Do they come and ask for Mario Odyssey and ask for a bottle of Prime? Is that what they do for my grandson?
They do, yeah. And I go, well, have you got £200? And they cry. They cry at me. She said, I don't know what else to get them.
They cry and pay me.
I know I said I wouldn't mention him on the podcast, but Stuart Hogg's gamer score is 30,000, so he's got a lot more than you.
Holy moly! Like he's not even he cannot have used his Xbox.
Perpetually offline. It's all 360 games. I'm looking at his thing now. It's like Skyrim, Mass Effect, Gears.
So that must have been.
It's all from his 360 days.
So do you think that then? Obviously, you said it was a massive thing. Like, as in, that's surely of an age past now that it was such a big thing. Gamer score, was it not?
I think some people.
No, it's still a big thing. It's just it depends whether your Xbox or your PS5 really.
Yeah, and even then, like I know there are some PS5 games that will go on the store dirt cheap, specifically so people can pick up easy platinums.
Okay, so I'm a bit wounded by this because I've had an Xbox One for going on 10 years now. So it's not as if I've not had an Xbox in my life for, not a significant amount of gaming time. So why is my score so shit? Why am I a bad gamer?
I was going to say, but that's the question, isn't it? Like, do you feel like a bad gamer?
So one of our friends, Matthew Cropley, he's got 6,695, so he's half of what you've got.
He's got an Xbox, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's only got it fairly recently, and he's got over half what you've got. So
wait a minute! I thought hold on. Come on now. Let's just start.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I told you, don't care about it. Don't care.
Are you sure? Because you sound like you care a little bit.
No, I genuinely don't. This is such a ridiculous thing. Like, I don't. Where do you get gamer points from? Do you get them from trophies on games? Is that what you do? Is that
like achievements and stuff like that?
Basically.
Yeah. No, not bothered at all.
I mean,
are
you
sure?
People that will pull it down. I've had people come into store asking for really obscure games, old games. And I've went, if you want that game, I'm sorry we don't have it in pre-owned, but if you want it, you'll have to go on the website and blah, blah, blah. But why do you want that specific game? Are you really into those? No. It's just really, it's an easy 10,000 gamer score.
No way, really? I'm shocked. I'm shocked by this.
The easiest amount of gamer score onto their gamer score.
So, I mean, I don't know, I just find that really shocking that nowadays is that number. Like, what do you? Is it? Do you earn kudos on TikTok? I don't know what that means. That sentence made no sense to me.
Do you suddenly feel old?
Do old people? So the people that do use TikTok, would they not say kudos?
No, I no idea what you're talking about. It sounds like you're having a breakdown. But I think once upon a time, maybe like there might have been some. I mean, there might still be. I don't know, but like I think Sony, at least with the trophies and stuff like that, maybe had some kind of like loyalty scheme type thing where if you had a certain number of platinums, you could get money off on the store or something like that. Like, but I think that was a limited run thing.
But you get gamer coins, don't you, for Switch, for Nintendo? You earn gold coins.
Yeah, but that's different. That's an actual like tangible thing for the store and purchases.
Is that not from? You don't earn them, do you?
Exactly.
Okay.
Whereas, I think if Sony ran anything like that, it would have been short-lived because it would be like, oh shit, like people were playing these games, and so yeah, like I think by and large they don't really mean anything besides just a kind of quick measure of what you've played.
Trophy being the big thing on Sony. A lot of kids will come in and be like, I need this version of Minecraft on PS4 and it can't be Bedrock Edition. Okay, I'll have a look. Why? Oh, because I need to get this very specific trophy. All my friends have got it, so I'm going to get it.
I'm so interested in hearing, and I guess I'm going to be honest, I think there might be another podcast at some point down the line. It's almost like these people that come into your store, Nath, and talk to you about these kind of things, because it's interesting to know how in-depth gaming goes for different people, because you just don't bump into. I mean, I don't personally bump into these sort of people where they, talk about
like achievement hunters and that. Like, they're out there.
And I guess that you won't have done before you started working in your game shop recently. So, yeah. I mean, you might have done online a couple of times here and there, but not like in such a, I guess.
No, to this extent, there's a lot of. It's not just games either. It's because we do a lot of different things. It's nearly as big as card games. Video games are smaller than card games. Trading card games, so Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic and Pokemon cards. They're way bigger than video games are in that sort of sense of people being obsessed with it and stuff. But I've just never known it before until I started working there, obviously. But it does. When you were saying about Game Pass, it does. When I borrowed this PSP off someone,
someone James Hogg.
It did make me realise, I can't just if I was just having this in my hands with a game. So I've only got Gangs of London.
Only.
If I've only got that game, I can only pay that game. just download things and like I'm so used to on the Xbox just downloading stuff on Game Pass or getting in and going, oh, I fancy playing a game with a jet ski. I fancy being on a jet ski, and I can just go on Game Pass and find a game that'll fit that mood, and then I'm suddenly doing it. Whereas back then it was like, no, you've got to just stick with what you've got. I know you can obviously mod it and stuff like that now, but it just made me think having that disc in the back and just being kind of stuck to what you had.
So
it was
then,
interesting.
This is just 1 minute off subject then. So does it feel like a retro gaming console to you? Because obviously we've kind of started this podcast with the premise that it is a bit of a retro gaming podcast. But
yes, it is. 100% it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that just comes from the idea that you can't really access anything else, particularly right now with it and stuff.
Yeah, like I've said this to you before that I love the feel of a PSP. I think it's the best handheld I've ever had in my hands, and I've had most of them. It just I don't know. Even now, it feels cool to have in my hands.
Yeah.
And if I could get a big enough memory card and stick loads of movies and things on there that I really want, and music and everything like that, and just have it all on a device and use it as a daily like driver sort of thing, I fucking would. It's that good.
The thing is, that is possible. It's quite hard to do now with it being such an oldish console, I think. So
that's why I think it's retro though. It's the same with iPods. Sometimes I just get a hankering to have an iPod and listen to music in that way, or a CD player or something like that. That's the same feeling I get with the PSP.
I used to love having my iPod with like run. I used to run at like 2 a.m. in the morning after a McDonald's shift in Hyde Park in Leeds with Arcade Fire on, and I used to have my iPod Mini, and I used to feel like an absolute king until like I got mugged.
Oh,
but yeah. So don't you dare, Nath? Don't you dare. Right, well, you can bring it up another time, but not right now because we're running long on the pod about my hug mug in Manchester.
Now you're just going to end up stamping on whatever laptop.
I will be really upset. Okay, it's the most embarrassing part of my life, possibly ever, I think. So, just wrapping up then, guys. I guess a 30-second each. Am I a good gamer? Like, question almost, like, from the point of view. So I know you kind of answered it anyway, Rich, but do you, what does that constitute to you, really quickly, and how do you feel about it? Rich, you want to start?
I think I am, because I go in with that kind of mindset of, I want to learn something from this, I want to get better at it. You've got one life, it's got to be time well spent, hasn't it? And so especially with stuff like fighting games, it's sure it's not a quote unquote real life skill apart from the fact that it's fine motor skills and reading things. It's geometry at 60 frames a second. And so if I can crack that, then yeah, job well done. I think I am.
Oh, cool, good. Nath, what are you feeling about yourself?
Yeah, I think I'm a good gamer. I can evidence that by saying that I'm 2.4 IQ points ahead of someone that doesn't play video games. So.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good arbitrary number. Right. No, thank you for asking. I think that I am.
What about you?
No, cheers, dude. I'm just there for a good time all the time. Do you know what I mean? And whenever I play video games, I mostly feel like I'm having a good time. So, if like you said,
apart from when you're playing Sims 2,
even then. No, I can't do it. I can't do it. No, that was the worst.
That would be a lie.
That was the worst time of my life. That is in that I think I'm grieving about that now. Apart from The Sims 2 on PSP, I think that most games.
You can't blame not beating your Sims 2 on fire on the grief.
I think you find you can.
Yeah, isn't that the move list? I think it is.
He's about to.
I think it's in the menu. Most of the time I'm having a great time playing video games, and I wouldn't be where I am right now having this fantastic conversation with people that know a lot about them, and we're all having a good time talking about it. So yeah, fuck it. I'm a good gamer because of the experiences I get from them.
Yeah,
I've answered the question.
The friendships you make and the times that are fun.
Get that on Love Actually board, bitches. So
I think that's us for this video.
Yeah, I think that draws us to
the final word.
A close. Thanks for joining us, Nath. We really, really enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Cheers, no worries. Thank you. Thanks for having us, guys.
All right, dude. Right. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.